All right, guys, I've been on a little bit of a military kick today. We just did a French military video, and now we're doing how Switzerland became unconquerable. You know, we've lightly touched on this in a couple of videos. I know it has a lot to do with the geography of the country, is why they really haven't been invaded ever, the natural landscapes, the mountains, but I do know that they have a military. We did we did like their fighter jet videos long time ago, but today OBF is going to break it down for us on why Switzerland became unconquerable. Buckle up, this should be a good one.
Switzerland is the most unconquerable country on Earth. And this isn't a new thing, it's been this way for centuries. No one has even dared to try for a very long time. Not even Hitler wanted to try. And knowing what I know now, I completely understand this reluctance to invade Switzerland. It's not that they'll get angry per se, it's more so the fact that if anyone chooses to go to war with Switzerland, they'll have to deal with bombs. And no, I don't mean the Swiss-German language, that is the equivalent of an atomic bomb for your ears.
Viele liebe Grüße aus Zürich, der Schweiz.
I mean real bombs, but they won't be pointed at the enemy though. Instead, the Swiss will target themselves with these bombs. Now obviously they won't bomb their own cities where people live. Instead, they'll bomb their marvelous infrastructure. Roads, bridges, tunnels, you name it. Switzerland has TNT, explosives and bombs in any and all of the infrastructure that leads into the country. Which might...
No way. They do? I mean, it makes sense. I mean, then you would just have like a problem with food and supplies for the citizens, but I'm sure that they probably create a lot of that themselves. So, all right. So they're going to blow up their own stuff. Let's keep going.
Any and all of the infrastructure that leads into the country, which might sound insane. And it is. Yeah. But Switzerland is serious about staying out of conflicts. And since there are only a few ways you can get into Switzerland by land, as a result of the mountains surrounding the majority of the country, the Swiss saw this as a golden opportunity to create what they saw as a necessary defense mechanism in order to keep Hitler out. And keep him out they did. But part of the reason why Switzerland never got conquered by big European superpowers back when they were expanding right at their doorstep is that those same European superpowers decided it would probably be a good idea to have a buffer zone between them. Switzerland became that buffer zone, and since then they've been a neutral power in the center of Europe. By neutral, I of course mean insanely neutral. They aren't part of NATO or the EU. And they only became part of the UN 19 years ago. They don't send their troops to fight in any wars, even though they're actually really good at fighting, as we can see from their history. Back in the day, other European nations would actually hire Swiss men to fight for them in wars. But they put an end to that when they lost a big war to France a few hundred years ago. These days, Switzerland doesn't fight. Yet still, they can raise an army of 800,000 almost instantly.
Damn.
And even though they are unlikely to ever fight in any wars, the Swiss army is, to say it mildly, pretty remarkable. You know, there is a saying, Switzerland does not have an army. Switzerland is an army, which refers to the fact that it has
that's a pretty badass saying.
compulsory military service for all Swiss men. But that's not even the crazy part. Everyone that's been in that mandatory military service up until 2007 has kept all their equipment. Everyone, and I mean everyone, kept their uniform, assault rifles and ammunition. So that if a war were to start, they would be able to instantly jump into their military uniform at home, put their assault rifle on the back and go straight to the action. In a way, it's insanely genius, but mostly it's just insane. And the insanity doesn't stop there. Have you ever wondered what the Swiss might be hiding in the mountains? It could be gold or money, which they are probably hiding some of in there. But somewhere in Switzerland, inside of a mountain, there is a secret airbase in which multiple FA-18 Hornets sit ready to take action. Just imagine a Swiss Air Force pilot firing up the engines of an FA-18 Hornet behind camouflaged doors inside a mountain, getting ready to take...
That would be so crazy. Oh, damn, dude. I'm liking this video. This is really
18
good.
Hornet behind camouflage doors inside a mountain, getting ready to take off and make a surprise attack on an unsuspecting enemy that could be on his way to bombing Switzerland right now. But little does he know, behind him a fighter jet just got released from the inside of a mountain to take him down. I don't know, it just seems like something out of a James Bond movie to me. And since it's highly classified information, where exactly this base is located, chances are enemies wouldn't notice before it's too late.
They probably have more than one, I would imagine. They probably have multiple bases inside of the mountains that nobody knows where they're at.
We actually only know of this airbase's existence because Swiss soldiers have occasionally referred to it on social media, but they've always been requested to delete their mention of the airbase promptly after. And as a senior Swiss officer has said, the name and location of the base are highly classified information. But knowing the Swiss, I'm not so concerned about where it is, more so how many there are, as there's probably more than one. What there's definitely more than one of are bunkers. You see, back when Hitler was taking over most of Europe, the Swiss realized they had to have a place they could retreat to in case Hitler did choose to invade. And since most of the population lives in flat and easily maneuverable terrain, which is a bad thing in war times by the way, they went to the mountains to build bunkers and tunnels. And while these tunnels obviously never got used for what they were intended for, they are now used for anything from aging rooms for cheese to hotels and high-tech sober vaults where you can store—
Wait. There's a hotel in a bunker in Switzerland that you can stay at? I've got to do this. I've already looked up ice hotels in Norway. That was one thing I wanted to do on one of my trips. Maybe a hotel in a bunker too. That sounds like a really cool experience. All right, let's keep going.
From aging rooms for cheese to hotels and high-tech sober vaults where you can store information that requires that extra level of security, I guess. But bunkers aren't just limited to the Swiss Alps. You see, for a long time in Switzerland, it was required by law that when you build a house, it had to have a bunker that could fit all the people living in that house. Nowadays, the law has been changed a bit, and it states that every inhabitant must have a protected place that can be reached quickly from that person's place of residence. So basically, you either need to install a nuke-proof bunker in your basement, or you have to pay for access to a community bunker and have a designated place in one of those. What's rather curious though is that since these bunkers haven't been used and probably never will get used, the Swiss typically just use them as storage rooms, you know, to make sure your wine is safe in the off chance that a nuclear bomb decides to hit your country, or if enemy tanks come knocking at the door. Tanks, as if those could even get anywhere close to Swiss soil. Don't you think the Swiss have already thought of that? Well, of course they have. You remember the explosives from earlier, right? You know, the ones they put in place to destroy all routes going into Switzerland if necessary? Yeah, those ones. If enemy tanks get past that, then first of all, well done. And second of all, you now have to deal with these. They are called tank traps. You heard me right, tank traps. These are long lines of giant concrete blocks specifically designed to block out tanks. And if you go to the French-speaking region, Suisse-Romand, along the Swiss side of the lake between Geneva and Lausanne, you'll find these lines of tank traps that stretch all the way from the lakeside into the mountains. And do you see these houses? They're actually bunkers, disguised as houses. And
this is crazy. They have tank traps and bunkers literally everywhere. Oh man, they really, really do not want to be included in any wars. This is nuts.
Here, the Swiss hid cannons they could use when the tanks tried to go over the tank traps. But the cannons wouldn't be pointed at the tank directly though. Instead, they would be aimed at the belly of the tank where there was little armor. It's genius, but also quite terrifying. Although I do find this one instance where Switzerland threatened Germany a tad more terrifying. You see, this river is called the Rhine. The head of this river is right here within Switzerland's borders, and it runs through a large part of western Germany and eventually ends up here in the Netherlands. What's terrifying is that Switzerland threatened to poison the Rhine and in turn all of Germany's water if they invaded. A little aggressive Switzerland, I gotta say, but fair play. Now obviously this never happened, at least on purpose. You see, Switzerland did actually poison the Rhine in the 1980s, but that was considered an accident. But ultimately it shows the Swiss commitment to keep enemies from even thinking about invading their country. What is weird though is that Hitler actually did have a very detailed plan to invade Switzerland, and while he saw it as a challenge, it could certainly be done. So why didn't
he? Probably would have done it eventually.
A complex topic, and the Swiss as well as historians don't completely agree on why Hitler didn't attack them. Some strongly believe that it was the strong Swiss military and the Reduit strategy in the Alps that saved them. Others say it was the cooperation with Nazi Germany, as it's likely the Nazis preferred to bank with them, so they just let them stay neutral because of it. Historians say that both were needed, and that another important reason was that Germany had a hard time in Russia. Germany could have easily invaded Switzerland, but it would have cost them too many resources, which Germany just couldn't afford to lose at this time, because their Russian expedition had bad luck. The cooperation with Switzerland also proved quite useful to the Germans, as Switzerland had to deliver resources on credit to Germany, which they obviously didn't need to pay for upfront as part of a contract. Additionally, Germany could sell their gold to the Swiss National Bank in exchange for foreign currencies without proving its origin. This way they could sell gold they had stolen from countries they had invaded. In return for this, Switzerland could stay out of the war and continue.
Is this why Switzerland is so rich? They have all the gold from the world wars, like that Germany sold to them. They just held on to it this whole time. I'm totally kidding. I have no idea if that's true or not. I know my Swiss viewers are probably like, dude, what? And maybe though, maybe.
Trading with allies for food and coal, which they really needed. Now since the war ended, these things have shown to be quite controversial. I don't personally have an opinion on this, but had Switzerland not done these things, they wouldn't have been the neutral nation we know them as today. So the continuancy of Swiss independence and neutrality is a result of many different factors. But above all, the Swiss made sure that none of the parties in a war would benefit from attacking them. And that's the mentality they've kept to this day, although they aren't as insane about it as they were back then. For example, the Swiss military said in 2014 that they had removed all bombs and explosives from their infrastructure. Well done, Switzerland. That's probably for the best. But in terms of bunkers and tank traps, they are all still here, because might as well be, right?
I would love to see
You
some
never
of
know
these.
when those could become useful. But all in all, Switzerland remains the most unconquerable country on Earth as a result of its continuing desire to stay neutral. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
The most unconquerable nation on Earth. I've definitely watched a video on how unconquerable America is. And I think it's just because of our oceans, but Switzerland, I'll go ahead and give it to them. Maybe I need to get a Swiss citizenship, you know, in case another massive war breaks out. I just go there. All right, I'm like half kidding. All right, that's gonna be it for today, you guys. Appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.